Hello and welcome to Rat Class. And I'm making this podcast to try and help students in the world, but I will take case in the USA school system. So if you're from some other country, you can still use parts of what I'm saying in trying to make your school a better place to actually be in. And now you ask, why do I care about schools? Well, I do teach daily in schools. I have been teaching in classes from kindergarten and all the way to 10th grade, and I've taught adults as well. And I know how it is to be in a school where the school isn't working as it should be. I was bullied my entire childhood by both the teachers and the kids, and it left a deep mark in me. And it made my adult life much harder because it triggered anxiety and stuff like that. Because what happens in your childhood will affect your adult life, and that is sadly how it is. And where do I get the senses that this is needed? Well, I get that from research that I actually found out that in almost all countries, a lot of kids actually have schools where they have major mental problems and they don't know what to do. So I'll try and talk about what can help them change the school system. Since schools are where we build the foundation of our future generations, and if we fail in the school, then we cripple ourselves and future generations. As if the foundation we make is bad, then the house that the kids build their life on can collapse later in life. And just to get an idea of how many kids actually have problems in life in school, we again going from the USA, there is about 15 million kids in school right now from ages 3 to 18. And around 19% of them has some sort of mental problem that can affect their daily life. That is around 12 million kids that are affected in their daily life. That's a lot of kids. But how does a school system change? Well, sometimes the government that comes in after the old government trying to jazz it up a bit and change some things they felt was wrong or didn't match what they were doing. And sometimes they just do it out of their policy on what they believe to be true instead of actually asking what is true. So they sometimes do it to save money, and sometimes to just try to shake the bag to see if it will help in the long run to change some of the problems. But you can also get them to change stuff by actually beginning to telling them they need to change stuff. And if enough people actually do this, at some point they have to listen. And if they don't listen to you at first, as soon as you begin to go viral and you begin to go international, then other countries might actually join in and share the hashtags around and stuff like that. And then it will be harder and harder for them to actually ignore it. And who better than to do this than the kids who are at school and some of the teachers because they know the reality of the school system. Often the people who are in charge of the school system doesn't really have an idea on what's going on the ground floor because they are sitting on the top floor and just making the rules that will affect down the chain. So while they're sitting on the top floor, back in the days, only leaders and teachers were actually able to like mount enough confusion that the top floor would notice it. But the past 10 years, since social media, the government is more aware of what's going on because of hashtags and people using social media to actually draw attention to what is going on. So social media can be a really strong tool to make the leaders acknowledge that something is going on and something needs to be changed. So what do I actually believe can help the school systems around the world and in the USA in particular? Well, there's a lot of focus on the grades and how kids need to have a certain grade to actually achieve something in life. But we give the grade a lot of importance in that matter, and we tend to actually forget the person behind the grades because we tend to actually summarize a person on what grades they got in school instead of actually looking at the entire person, because all the grade actually does is show how good you are at that certain thing. So if you go into a math exam and the exam is about making what is 2 plus 2, and then you get a grade out of that, then the grade only tells you that you were able to do that and only that. It doesn't show your person. It doesn't show if you are a caring, empathic person, if you have some problems in life, you're good at sport or something like that. The grades only show how good you are at that one thing that they're created for. And because of that focus on the grade, we tend to forget the kids behind the grade. And it's something that I have actually seen in schools where I live. And it's something that I see or hear from students around the world that it happens in their places as well, because we need the grades to get further down the line in life, because we need good grades to be able to get the education that we want or to do what we want, like get into another school, something like that. So what I believe can help a lot is some sort of way where you can teach the teachers on how to make their students actually thrive in the school, and try to have some sort of leveled learning so everyone can join in. So the kids that are a bit behind, they can still keep up with the class, and the kids who are a bit ahead doesn't get bored, because then either end you will get some kids who might not be thriving, and it can lead into some problems down the line. But it takes a lot of change to make all this happen, and it needs leaders to actually say we want this change and then enforce some sort of change, because it can be almost impossible to actually do it on your own if everyone else around you doesn't do it. So it's something where we need to get the leaders to understand how important it actually is. And the reason why it is important to make kids actually thrive in schools is because if a kid is not having a good time in school, they learn less. And if they learn less, they get better bad grades. And it's like a snowball growing. And there, it's so important to actually make sure that kids have a good time in school. And I'm sorry if I sounded a bit mad there for a second, but I just get frustrated when I hear stories about how schools are handling kids at times, and how the students are suffering because leaders in governments are just sitting on their hands and going like, school worked 10 years ago, it's gonna work now, no problems, no biggie. So making kids thrive is something that should be on equal terms as getting good grades, because they are in a balance mode. So you need one of them to get the other. And that is something that you really need to do. And when I actually look at how it all bundles up, you can often see when children ain't thriving in school, then they ain't learning as well. So making sure that kids are having a good time at school is often the root cause of what is going wrong at the school, because if the kids ain't having a good time, then their grades will plummet and they will have more sick days and so on. So making sure that there's some element of having a good time and thriving in school is something that can really help a lot. That is why I think it's one of the major things that teachers and leaders need to learn how to achieve and how to do. What else can you do? Well, you can make sure that every school have equal funding. So they are funded by the amount of students that they're actually on the school. And if you have some sort of student with a handicap who might need some extra hands in class and stuff, then of course you have to adjust the budget for those kids, and you have to make a box where you can see how many of those kids actually are there, and then give money out so they can actually learn and achieve something. So, and then actually making sure that teachers are paid what they're worth, because as soon as you begin to get some sort of payment that actually matches what you're doing, you would actually begin to perform better at your job, and you'll begin to be able to afford more quality of life items, and that will make your life better, and that will affect how you actually are teaching in a classroom. And a lot of countries actually have a problem where they don't have enough teachers being educated as the older teachers begin to stop working because of old age. And it's because you really have to have this drive to actually want to help kids and to teach kids to actually become a teacher, because it is almost always one of the lowest paid jobs if you look at level of education versus payment. The education I have, it takes 3.5 years on it's just below university, and I am bachelor, and I have the third lowest income for people looking at my educational level. And what I do is I take care of kids from they go into school and to they leave school. So I have a massive impact on their life, but I get paid the bare minimum. Then the next thing to look at is actually homework, because homework is something that some schools turn out a lot of, and the teachers turn out a lot of. And homework is actually not the greatest thing in the world, because the problem is if the kids have too much homework and it might be too hard or something like that, then the kids who are behind will begin to suffer. They won't be able to recuperate when they get home. They won't be able to relax. They won't be able to chill and actually become ready for school the next day. And if you go on with this in a prolonged area of time, your body will begin to show stress-like symptoms. You'll begin to become sick and tired and depressed, and you don't want to go anywhere. You're just like, ugh. And it's actually amazing to look at Finland, because the Finnish school system doesn't really have homework, but their kids are often the top um, graded kids in the world when you look at overall grades. And the teachers are using less time at school, and everything is just more relaxed, and the kids are doing way better. And that just shows that if we are able to make a school system where homework becomes minimum, then kids can be allowed to be kids when they get home. They can be allowed to relax without having the dread of homework drowning them, and it will make them ease and relax and just have a good time. And it's something that can help them down the line again, because the more relaxed you are, the more easy it is to actually thrive in the classroom the day after, no matter what you have to handle in the classroom, because you have more energy and mental focus to actually do it. So I do hope that this episode has had some few good points for everyone, no matter where they live and whoever listened to it. And I do hope that if some students actually listen to this, that they will share it around and begin to talk about it, so they can begin to have a debate on what they want their government to actually see is happening in schools, and what they want the governments to actually try and change first, because you can't get everything changed at once. It's often made in steps and it takes time. So even though you might be like, well, I'm out of school in 2 years, then you still have to begin the change, because change can take 5 years maybe. And in those 5 years, a lot of new kids will get into all this world of school. And if it's still bad, then they will get a bad experience as well. So do it for future generations. Always look, what can I do to make it better for those coming after me? So I do really hope that someone can use this to actually um, get everyone up at the course and get the government to listen. And you can even use this and just uh, drop the link to some governments or some leaders and tell them, listen to this dude, he might actually have a point. Maybe you should actually do some of the stuff he says, or you as students should rally together and go like, we want less homework, we want more time to relax, we want a classroom where we feel safe and secure and where we actually feel welcome every day. And I do hope that this episode can help someone actually achieve that. And the reason I really want it to happen is because, again, I work with schools every day, and really do my best to make it a better place for the kids that I have. And if I see someone doing something that I find very bad for future generations, I actually have the power to say, that is wrong. Why don't you do it like this? Or look at this, because I have another uptick than teachers, because I look at the child, I look at the person behind, and not just the grades. So I look at the entire child, and I also look at the family and siblings, and I factor all that in when I try to teach. So I do hope that you enjoyed this episode, and you can join me and my podcast on Reddit, Instagram, Facebook. My podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and basically all podcast places. And I wish you all an amazing day. And if you want to talk about schools, feel free to join on my subreddit, Red Class, or the school subreddit on Reddit, because I'm actually very active in there and try to help students every day. So have a nice day. Bye.